Hi, Kevin Blanch. You would not believe what I went through trying to load this last page of Post-Ignorance, my book. As this whole circle started out a couple years ago, 2.5 years ago, as I wrote this YouTube vlog, oh but boy, what a journey. What a journey. Remember, I wrote this before I got cancer, and I've been to the edge. Wow. I want to show you this. That's an autograph version of Mariner's biography. That mountain is his mountain. Sorry, like I said, oh, if you only knew what I went through trying to get this last page up. Life is more than who we are, and the roundness of life will catch up to all. The yellow ribbons and the medal givers and the lies and their neo-ignorant byproducts. The culprits will pay in life more than who we are. I have not but one, but two grandsons on the way. My first grandsons, my first boys. I had all girls. They are due 1 week apart, both boys. Remember, I wrote this this chapter, 1.5 years ago. I call them a pair of 11s. Life is round, it is taken, it is given, it is precious, precious gift. And we have somehow forgotten that fact. We have minimalized life. Life is a passion, it is a literature, it is painting, it is the hawk and trout, it is the keystrokes, it is the paintbrush, it is the picnic at the spiral jetty, it is the hike atop Mount Ogden, it is a baseball game or season, it is music, it is the sun and the sweat rounding down my broken back, aching muscles, it is the struggle and the fight and passionate grace, it is the young look in a young man or woman's eyes when they are 15 or 16 or 17, before the sick take them from us. It is post-ignorance. I will scream, I will rant. It is my duty to all those who have died in the name of neo-ignorance. We are the voice as we live, much as we can live, as we think of them and they would have wanted us to live. My father feared no one or nothing. He stood up to everyone or everything in the name of intelligence, hard work, education, mind, not from birth, but from hard work and compassion of all men, not just the ones that think and look like I do. I will, and I have, and I live, and I believe he would, as he would like to live, with honor and courage. I will live that way. In the true meaning of honor, not a yellow ribbon or a lie, in the truth of the soul of all men. This neo-ignorant period started with the election of an old actor and the killing of a peace-loving genius artist by a religious, confused, mentally ill freak. It started with the reversal in economic philosophy to become that of a science fiction writer, Alan Greenspan. It started with the byproduct of the 1980 Olympics for the invasion of Afghanistan. It is ending with the election of a half-white, half-black, broken home man with a wife with the last name of Robinson. Remember Jackie? And the stopping of the invasion of Afghanistan and the birth of a whole bunch of little 11s. Hopefully one of the million of the new babies born this year will be as brilliant as John Lennon and transform a culture as Lennon did. Not as the same pronounced name. No, not that Lennon and Ayn Rand countercultural fuel. This artist, John Lennon, John. The 30-year is over. It is over, and all the fakers should go back to their basements they came out of and hide. Take the hairspray off. It is over. There are the lyrics to one song that could summarize the entire 30-year cycle, that period of 1980 to 2010. It fits every power, small sex freak, a politician in their neo-ignorant glory. He is plain ugly me, and I wonder if he has ever had a day of fun in his old life. Sheryl Crow, that line is the powers and the politics of the great neo-ignorance conservative movement. As the great man said, let us realize the arc of moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Martin Luther King. The keystrokes, the paintbrush, the $3 throwaway camera, the flip video camera, the hawk and try. I am the economist. I am the historian. I am the derivative specialist. I am the economist. Environmentalist. I am the humanitarian. I am the man who bleeds like all man. And I am the artist, always the artist first. Life is round, let a new cycle begin. What a post-ignorance. I see post-ignorance as a pure art movement in the concept of art itself, in the concept of art as culture, in the concept that people are culture, in the concept that inspiration, influence are great historical artists, like Van Gogh and Malay, like Pollock's reference to Kaczynski, like Monet's To the Sunlight, Morning, Dawn, Winter, Fall, Spring. It is influenced by the invogueness of the time. Stay tuned. I am 50 now. Neo-ignorance, 30 years. Neo-post-ignorance now. Kevin Dwayne Blanch, December 5th, 2010. I do step back, and I do view from the broader perspective. Is this the end of my post-ignorance? YouTube? My whole thesis? My conclusion? My hypothesis, what was my hypothesis? What was my conclusion? What was my thesis? My thesis was this. We live in the most ignorant time in the history of the world. Prove it. So I did prove it. Was my hypothesis right? Yes. What was my conclusion? We live in the most ignorant time in the history of the world. I wrote this 2 years ago. Have things changed? Not much. A little bit, on the fringes. But change is slow. The artist must come first, and it takes time. And we're seeing resistance art, and we're seeing things pop up. And as economic philosophy, it's a hard nut to crack, as one of my YouTube viewers said. I get frustrated. I'm very frustrated. But I will not let the evil liars, the so-called historians, rewrite history. I will tell history as I am the blood that runs off these mountain peaks into those great Salt Lake marshes, into that blue-gray, bright red Smithson Jetty lake. I am the pure white sand from my grandfather's sand pit from the ancient lake shores. And remember this, Mitt Romney, a Mormon, not from here. Karl Rove, a Mormon, not from here. Harry Reid, a Mormon, not from here. As he appoints an Ann Rander who would, Mariner Eccles would roll over in his grave. As Mariner Eccles' only son committed suicide right over there. I am a Mormon from here. As I was in LDS Hospital, and why it's called LDS is beyond me. The name needs to come off. I learned a lot about the Mormon culture and a lot about the people. And it's like this. Is it like Mariner's father from the slums of Glasgow was a robber baron? Yeah, they were robber barons, like so many. Well, did the second generation, one man out of all those children, Mariner, well, and his brother George, rise it up? Oh yeah. Like the second generation, rose up America, made it beautiful, made it strong, made it progressive. As we went, as John Steinbeck said, we went from the I to the we. Back to the I. Excuse me. He said we went from the we to the I. I say it like this, as Mariner would say it. Mariner was a wee guy. He was the great socialist. As freednickers, let's be clear, freednickers in impoverished conditions. And if you think they were not a powerhouse society, you better look up and see it. And I have the list, personally own the list. It's mine. I have everybody. My grandfathers both. And if you think my great-grandfather, I'm the grandson of Abraham Hunsaker IV. You better read up on Abraham Hunsaker I. And I know you people that live in northern Utah, for not him, was he the great socialist? Oh, yes. I come from infamous bloodlines. I have lived in this freaking thing. As I say, I was not born with these scars across my face. It took years of living in this violent place. I am Mormon. They still count me. As I was in the top of that hospital, the Mormons would come in to pray with me. Do they support those people as you are economically wiped out and destroyed? I don't care how much money. I had 1,000 shares of Apple stock when I went in there. I've always been economically, rich. Am I rich right now? Very rich. I'm rich in wealth. I'm alive because of those wonderful doctors down there. And you wonderful YouTube vloggers, as something came out of this in the birds and the wind. Because it is where the wind blows. It is where the water flows. It is. Travel Fukushima, Japan, you are already there. It is the great equalizer, as Jill coined that frame, that YouTube thing, Clarkson. It is the great equalizer, Fukushima. The Mormons. I am one of them, 6th generation. My grandfather ran the church welfare farms for years and years. I worked for years and years in that organization. For years. I come from family members that gave so much to the Mormon community that is unbelievable, including myself. When I got sick, I finally figured out how to get rid of the Mormons come to your house every 3 days looking for a handout. Because they're every 3 days my entire 52 years of life. Because I am the 6th generation to live at the family that was the very first family there. The first person buried in the cemetery there. That is my bloodlines. That is me. Abraham Hunsaker, that is me. That is me. He had 3 daughters. I tell my mom all the time, if you'd been a boy, I'd be Abraham Hunsaker VI. I come from those families. Not only were they not even the bishop, none of them came to my room, none of them came to my side, none of them came to my mom's house, none of them came to my brother, who's a very participating Mormon. My own family members are the participating Mormons. They all turned their back on me because they're afraid I was going to hold my hand out and say, hey, I need some money, I need some help to pay my mortgage. In the old days, it would have been just like this as I restored Bob Penman's house. Bob Penman was looking over my shoulder. He came with the Heathleys, he came with McKays, he came with the Eccles from the slums of Glasgow, Scotland to here. They were we's, they were we's. Mariner was we. As we go from Mariner's we back to the I. So we go from that we to the I. Back to the we for years, the greatest middle class in world history. The greatest socialist country in world history being Mariner Eccles and his Freed-Knicker Society, fleeing impoverished conditions. They were socialists, the greatest socialist country in the history of the world from 1945 to 1975 via these guys' policies. We go back to the I on that almost 25 years ago to the day in 1987. The appointment of the great Ayn Rand, or Alan Greenspan, he did this. We go back to the I, the baby boomer, our generation, as we become the third generation, just like the Eccles, just like all of them. They just use it up, look at me, look at me, look at all my money. They ride that name. And they spend up the money. The baby boomer destroyed this. The baby boomer's idealism destroyed this because they are ignorant, as my PhD proved. My thesis going in, my hypothesis that we live in the dumbest modern freaking Rupert on a leash society in world history, and people don't want to know the truth. And even if you're shown truth in their face, it does not matter. Truth means nothing to these people. My conclusion, we live in the dumbest, most ignorant time in the history of the world. Truth means nothing. And religion, the one other thing I found out, religion has totally been hijacked. All you hairspray fake Christians, and not just Mormons, not just evangelicals, all across the world, you repressors, where are your horns? Where are your little horns sticking up? Where are you? Because you are the devil. You are the devil, as all the religious philosophy said we would come to this point. That the true meaning of Jesus Christ, he threw the moneylenders out of the temple. He needs to throw all you card dealers, loan sharking, no usury liars out of the freaking temple. We are there. We are there. We are there. This is the I generation of all time. This book was intended for the youth, for the intelligent, for the smart, for the thinkers of the world. The ignorant, you sucked up Rupert on a leash, Kool-Aid, freaking dynamics, you got no business here. And I will tell this tale in the sexual content, in the verbal content, and I will tell it radically. And my Ballad of Cement is a big, broad novel, and it talks into detail. I will tell this tale. I did live to tell. Keivn Blanch.